In the waning months of World War II, the Allied bombing campaign reached its crescendo, unleashing a final fury of devastation upon Axis targets across Europe. Known as War Against Humanity 130, this relentless assault marked the culmination of years of strategic bombing aimed at crippling enemy industry, infrastructure, and morale. This article explores the significance of this final phase of the Allied bombing war and its lasting impact on the course of the conflict. The strategic bombing campaign. Since the early days of the war, both the Allies and the Axis powers recognized the strategic importance of bombing raids in undermining the enemy's war effort. The Allies, led by Britain's Royal Air Force RAF and later joined by the United States Army Air Forces USAF, embarked on a systematic campaign to cripple German industry and infrastructure through precision bombing raids on key targets. The evolution of warfare. As the war progressed, the Allied bombing campaign evolved in both scale and intensity. Strategic bombing missions grew increasingly sophisticated, utilizing advanced aircraft, radar technology, and precision bombing techniques to target enemy factories, transportation networks, and population centers. The objective was clear: to cripple the enemy's ability to wage war and break their will to resist. War Against Humanity 130. By early 1945, as Allied forces closed in on the heart of Nazi Germany, the bombing campaign entered its final phase. Code-named War Against Humanity 130, this series of devastating raids targeted major German cities, including Berlin, Dresden, and Hamburg, with unprecedented ferocity. The bombings, carried out primarily by RAF Bomber Command and USAF strategic bombers, inflicted catastrophic damage and loss of life on civilian populations. Controversy and consequences. The Allied bombing campaign, particularly the firebombing of cities like Dresden and the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, remains a subject of controversy and debate to this day. Critics argue that the bombings resulted in disproportionate civilian casualties and raised ethical questions about the morality of targeting civilian populations. However, proponents contend that the bombings hastened the end of the war and ultimately saved lives by forcing the Axis powers to capitulate. Legacy and reflection. As we reflect on the final fury of the Allied bombing war, it is essential to remember the human cost of warfare and the enduring consequences of violence on civilian populations. The devastation wrought by the bombing raids, while instrumental in bringing an end to the war, left scars that would endure for generations. As we strive to build a more peaceful and just world, let us heed the lessons of history and work towards resolving conflicts through dialogue, diplomacy, and cooperation.